the city, the Historical Society, and other organizations are putting on to celebrate the city's centennial during the entire year of 2017. Some announcements. First of all, the El Cerrito Archiving Committee has a table over here with some memorabilia things for sale, and the profits from that go to scholarships. Secondly, if you need a restroom, it's back through that door down. It's easier perhaps to go out this way and go back in the front door. By the way, if those of you who have passports from the centennial, Pat, sitting over here, will initial them for you so that you have proof that you were here. I'm going to introduce a gentleman whom everybody knows as Coach, but he has a real name. Larry Cerrito, native of the East Bay, moved to El Cerrito when he was 9 years old, graduate of El Cerrito High School where he played football and baseball. Then he went to Contra Costa College, played baseball there. San Francisco State, played baseball there. He got his teaching credential in 1965, but then he had to spend 6 months in the Coast Guard. He played baseball there too. He taught a year in Alameda County, then 2 years at Roosevelt Junior High in Richmond, then a year at Richmond High and coached football and baseball. Got to El Cerrito High School in 1969 and was there for 32 years. He coached baseball, football, he was athletic director for several years. Then he went to Contra Costa College and became the coach there while he was still working at El Cerrito High. And he finally retired in 2005. He belongs to 4 Hall of Fames. San Francisco State Hall of Fame, El Cerrito High Hall of Fame, the California State High School Baseball Coach Hall of Fame, and the California State Community College Baseball Hall of Fame. He lives in El Cerrito with his wife Barbara, so let's welcome Coach.
Thank you for the great introduction. My job here tonight is to kind of give you a brief history of El Cerrito High School athletics, and also at the same time talk about the history of athletics, incorporate some of the great teams we had at El Cerrito, some of the great players we had at El Cerrito, some of the great coaches we had at El Cerrito, and even some of the guys who never played in the big leagues, especially baseball, because we had a ton of kids signed out of El Cerrito High School played minor league baseball, and 3 or 4 maybe a tick away from playing in the big leagues. It's just a matter of a break here and a break there. But so when I speak, it'd be kind of highlights of each decade. So I'll go from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, 80s, 90s, and I'll stop at 2001. Because from that point on, there was a big change, and the new school number 1, and all the I call coaches retired, and things are different now than they were when we were back coaching in high school. So anyway, in the 40s, the only information, because I came to El Cerrito in 1950, and I started following El Cerrito High School in 1950, and the newspaper was great. There was all kinds of information about, especially El Cerrito Richmond, because there were only 2 schools then in the area. And so my knowledge from that point to now is pretty good. Where I have a problem is in the 40s, and that's when the school was, the baby years, when the school was being built in 1941, that's the first year it opened up. So the information I've given you about the 40s is going to be highlights, and I got the highlights from Hale Roach. Hale was the first PE teacher there at El Cerrito High School came in 1941, and he stayed there all the way to 1973 and retired. But the first 3 or 4 years, every article in the newspaper about Elstree High School athletics, he kept them in a scrapbook. And I was able to get the scrapbook from Joanne, because Mike, his son, had them, and read a lot about the 40s. And basically the 40s was the first football game, first home game at the new stadium, first new game at night, all the first. So that's basically the 40s would be about the first things that happened here as far as fields go. So anyway, I'll start in. Unfortunately, I have to wear my glasses on. Okay, here we have, the school opened in September 1941 with high 10th graders and 9th graders. I read some information about the 11th graders. No, they weren't 11th graders, they're high 10 because the first graduating class was 1944. But January 44, the first group graduates. That means they had to be higher than El Cerrito until it switched over in the late 50s to get rid of the high-low. But anyway, first principal was Frank Schellenberger. As you see the picture there. Second principal was Claude Samples. He took over in 1947. Then we have, next slide. We have Woody Snodgrass and Dina Boyce. Then she's been the superintendent of schools in the district. Margaret Wilson was a vice principal at Elstree High School from 1949 to 1978, I think, when she retired. And she started there in 43 as a girls counselor. And she was, I tell you right now, talk about athletics, she was a very important part of athletics. And say they want, she might be the vice principal, but she's vice principal of instruction. And back then, all the athletes were programmed in 7th period PE, so you wouldn't miss any academic classes to go and play away games. And she made sure that every athlete that was on a team was in 7th period PE. And when the school year started, if she knew you were an athlete, she got you 7th period PE. And I'll tell you right now, when the school started with her, because I started when she was still in her prime at El Cerrito as a teacher, there was no class changes. She had everything down to a sign. Boom, 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 boom. One change might be if a person came into school late and we didn't know, the coaches didn't know that kid was an athlete, like he transferred from somewhere, then she made the class change, but she was outstanding. And she, like again, she was a very important part in athletics. The first athletic teams was 1942, 1943. Football started on a small scale. They had 4 games. They played against local high schools, but they played against their JV teams and their soft cross teams, or B teams they called back then. And Hale Roach was the head coach of football, and Gene Core was assistant coach. I'll talk about those two guys later on. But they had a 4-game schedule. First game was against Richmond High, either JVs or the Bs. I wasn't sure. I couldn't really tell which one it was. They lost to Richmond 24-6 at Richmond High, and the first win was 7-0 against St. Mary's, and it was their B team, and they tied Richmond JVs the following game 12-12. And like I said, it was a 4-game schedule. Superintendent of schools at the time, I don't know who it was, but anyway, he made a quote. He said, when the World War II is over, we're going to build the finest football field in the whole Bay Area. And at that time, they did. And that's down the road a few years. Also, 1943, had a basketball team coached by Roach and Gene Core. They were the only 2 coaches in the school at that time. And the record was 10-10. The highlight of their year was beating Piedmont JVs. I guess Piedmont back then was a powerhouse, 24-13. At the time, 42-43 was only 2 sports, football and basketball. I'm going to talk a little, just to give you a little background about Hale Roach, because he stayed there straight for 32 years, same amount of time I was at El Cerrito. He was probably the only coach that stayed there the whole time. He did not go over into World War II for 2 reasons. One, he was older than the other coaches at that time. And number 2 is he already had 2 kids. So that kept him home, and so he stayed at the school. Hale was born in LA, attended Burbank High School, then in Glendale JC, Washington State, graduate school at USC, worked at Edwall High School in Washington. He came back as a Glendale AD of City Schools, then became director of Del Ed in the LA area, got his teaching credential, then came to El Cerrito in 1941. Gene Core, I'll say a little bit, just real quickly, he left for the service right after the school year in 42, 43. He was a lieutenant in the Navy. Season of 43, 44. Hill was a football coach. Frank Martin, Stuart Blatham was the other coaches. Again, Gene was gone. First, upgraded schedule a little bit. They weren't in the league, they played a lot of JV teams. First game they lost to Hayward, 12-7. First win was 39-7 over Piedmont Reserves. Also at that time, probably not a lot of people remember this. I know most people don't. Their games were played at the kennels down by the plaza. The El Cerrito Plaza used to be a dog kennel, and that's where they played their football games, down there. Gene Poloni, who has been a resident of El Cerrito for his whole life, owned Poloni's grocery store down there in Richmond, Potrero. He told me about the kennels because he was on the football team back then as a junior. And he said there was rocks, holes, glass, anything you think of, that's what they had to play on back then. So anyway, they didn't have it easy because, like I said, the first thing they built was the school, and there was no athletic facilities because of World War II going on, and they just didn't have the finances to do it then. But anyway, they made do. Nickname Gauchos became in place then. That's a Mexican rider and a horse. MVP that year was Bob Frazier. One of the guys on the team we all know because he taught at El Cerrito High School for 30 plus years after he graduated from college was Howard Mackey. And another person who was, he was awarded the award as the best student on that football team was Jim Nelson, who was ended up being a principal at El Cerrito High School. So a couple guys didn't go too far away from home after they left. Basketball played. Frank Martin coached that team, 12-6 record. Again, Howard Mackey, here's what I know, he was on the basketball team, but he left in January of 1944 because he was a high senior, 10th grader at the time. Graduated in January of 44, then went into service. Didn't have his time of service and going to the University of California and came back to taught at El Cerrito High School. They had a baseball team. I'm not sure whether they played in the league at that time because it said 5-3 league record and 3 wins in the league. So I'm not sure whether they played a full league season or not. Big win, of course, beat Richmond High 7-6. Two things that highlighted the season was a 10-inning win over Hayward and a 15-inning win over Berkeley High. One pitcher, Lou Fagoni, who's been the owner of East Bay Sanitation, was the pitcher who pitched all 10 to 15 innings. So that's kind of a highlight of somebody who stayed around and became a great businessman, Lou Fagoni. On that team was Kenny Cavalera, and just remember that name. So anyway, Bob Frazier was the first guy to make an all-league team for El Cerrito High School. Hill Roach was a track coach. Season 1944-45. They played more of an upgraded schedule, but still wasn't in the league yet because the league officials, the ACL at that time, felt that El Cerrito did not have enough student body to participate in the ACL at that time because it was a very strong league during those years. The record was 4-4 in non-league, and the MVP, like I said before, I brought his name before, was Gene Poloni, who stayed down there in El Cerrito, at the grocery store there on Richmond and Potrero. Teams in the league are Albany, Richmond, Berkeley, Alameda, Hayward, Piedmont, and El Cerrito. The baseball team had to that year, 1944-45, the 45 season, they had to play at home field. All the home field was Nichols Park. There's no city field in the city of El Cerrito at that time. They had to build they had to make their own field at El Cerrito. They built the backstop, and then they got the city of El Cerrito donated their equipment to level and dissect the baseball field so they could practice. So the city of El Cerrito at that time stepped up and helped them have at least a field they could practice on. Again, no home games. Hale Road, still track coach, father won dual meets, placed 5th in the league. Lost the first league match at Hayward 58-54. A couple outstanding runners were Lloyd P. Lee Williams and Richard Harris, MVP of the team. 1945, 46, some coaches started coming back. Hale Rhodes was still head coach. John Palmer came back. Dick Hunt came back from service. That year was the first year in the ACAL, first year, season of 1945 in the ACAL. No home games, all games had to be played away. First game was 18-6 win over Petaluma. Second game was 27-19 win over Alkalines at Garfield Junior High. That's where they had to play some of the home games, Garfield and Richmond, between Garfield Junior High and Richmond High School. After 5 years of existence, no grass on the playing field, next home game had to be played at Richmond High because of poor conditions at El Cerrito. I just imagine what that looked like at 45. Probably looked like a mine zone. The projected new field was for the 46 season at El Cerrito. Had to be graded down to bedrock, and 5,000 pounds of plantation dirt had to be added. By the way, that day they beat St. Mary's of Richmond 14-6. During those days, 3 schools had a fight for Garfield Junior High School, and that's where the problem came in. El Cerrito, Albany, and Berkeley all had a lot of home games in Garfield. Berkeley's high school field was nothing but sand and dirt. El Cerrito's were rocks. Albany's hillside did not fit well for a football game. First ACL game, they lost to Berkeley 13-7 at Garfield. First league win came against Hayward 12-0. Third league game was 6-6 tie with the better rivals at that time, Richmond High School. Sal Tedesco and Warren Mortensen were the 2 players that made, first 2 players to make all ACL for El Cerrito High School. 46 basketball team, Dick Hunt coached that. Gene Core back from Navy took over the baseball team. That was his baby. The star of that year was Bob Kennard. A lot of you guys know Tom Kennard was Tom's older brother. The highlight was he struck out 8, 4 hits, won the first league game over Richmond that year. He's also picked all league. Okay, the 46 track, Richard Harris won the Kenny Tabalero Award. First winner is an all-around male student athlete. And here's why. The honor roll, they had 67 people associated with El Cerrito High School in the Cerrito World War II. Only 1 person was killed, that was Kenny Tabalero. So that's why they named the award after him as the outstanding senior athlete student. A lot of the coaches that left for the military were back teaching, Core, Palmer, Frank Martin. Amazing, we're all, the thing was we're all Cal grads, and they all were in the Navy connection, I think. So, football, 46-47, 3-6, 1-5, assistant coach Gene Core. Home games played at Richmond High. First win league of the season beat Albany at the Oaks Ballpark. That's what showed they had to move around to play their games. They go from one place to the other to play football games. And Oaks Ballpark was a field that Albany had 3 or 4 games played during that course of time. Starting work on the El Cerrito High School field. After the season, John Palmer was supposed to become the new football coach at El Cerrito, but over the summer he was appointed boys dean at El Cerrito High School, so Hale came back as football coach. Staff was Hale Roach, Gene Core, Dick Hunt basketball. All League football was Bob Kennard and Sal Tedesco again. Bob Kennard made All League in 2 sports, 1 in football and 2 in baseball. First home track meet was 1947. No bleachers, just a track, no formal dedication ceremony of the track was planned. Kenny Butler was the star of that team. He won the ACL 880, North Coast 880, and also placed 3rd in the state meet. Beginning of the 47-48 year, Samples took over as principal. Hale Roach was the football coach. First football game was supposed to be played on 9/19/47, a new field against San Rafael. But the game was changed to San Rafael because of the delay in temporary bleachers for the field. Portable bleachers were put in, but steel and concrete bleachers were not under construction. Would not be completed until next year. First home game was against Piedmont High School. They lost 33-7. First home win was against St. Mary's, won 26-7. That was November 15, 1947. Side note, at that time, I'll come back to that in a minute. Then, in the late 40s here, we started getting an influx of young athletes. People from Oakland were moving to El Cerrito. The redistrict was in South Richmond. Those kids were all reprogrammed or redistricted to attend Ephrata High School. That's where Pumpsy Green and a few of those guys came from. They were down in the South Richmond area, and they moved their district, went to El Cerrito High School. So they had a great influx, great influx of young athletes. They're moving in El Cerrito because all homes were starting to be built in this area, and redistricted of Richmond because the size of schools getting too big for them to handle down Richmond High. So they had transfer kids up to El Cerrito. If you looked at the first pictures of El Cerrito, there was no houses around El Cerrito, none. And then they started building houses in the late 40s, right after the war. Uh, 1948-49 baseball season, Gene Core. Track was Hale Roach. I missed something here. Oh yeah, here we go. Football, school year 1948-1949, Hale was still coach and Jake McCune was assistant coach. First night game was 9/17/48 against Alhambra, won by Gauchos 18-6. First league night game was against Richmond, and they won 18-6. The 5th game of the season against Albany on 10/15/48 was a dedication ceremony of the new lights and new football field at El Cerrito High School. El Cerrito won 12-0. The ticket prices at that time were $1.50. It was 90 cents tax on the tickets, so it made it $2.40. And the 90 cents tax was for the payment of the new lights. So they had to raise more than $20,000 through the sale of non-interest bearing bonds to install a lighting system second to none in the state of California. At that time, they named the high school El Cerrito High School Memorial Field, and not what the name is on that Ashby Drive down there. It says El Cerrito High School Stadium. No, it's Memorial Field. So district better straighten that out. Again, future stars, Don Pride, Calvin Winters, Nat Bates, Harvey Dugan, Pumpsy Green, all young players coming into El Cerrito High School. A couple of players that I want to kind of mention here. Can you put the card up there? Yeah. Yep, back it up. The card. Canard shoots before Scotty Cerullo.
No, that was
There's a picture of 3 guys. No. Back it up.
now you ask me to do something I can't do.
Yes, George.
Could you tell us why was the name Memorial Field?
It was named Memorial Field after the World War II veterans. That's why they named it Elstree High School Memorial Field. That was why.
No, oh, I see, all right.
Can't,
I'll get it. I see it. Four.
Okay, during that performance, they had three outstanding athletes. I want to mention them. One was Bob Kennard. His younger brother Jack is also in the Elstree Hall of Fame. Was a baseball player, football player, basketball player. He was all-league baseball 2 years, football 1 year. He signed with the St. Louis Cardinals out of high school. Was moving up well in Chicago on the St. Louis Cardinals chain. Back then it had D ball, C ball, B ball, A ball, double A, triple A ball. He was moving up the ladder pretty good. And then after 2 years, he got called into the Korean War. So he missed a couple years due to the Korean War. And when he came back out, he decided not to pursue baseball anymore. But he was on his way to the big leagues, and like I say, he got curtailed by Uncle Sam. Next was Sal Tedesco. He made All-League football 2 years, the first Elstree High School football player to make All-League. And he was the student body president, outstanding athlete in football and track. He had a great career after El Cerrito. He went to service, graduated from Cal, and he joined the Peace Corps, and he was an ambassador for the U.S. over in the Far East, Asia for years, and then came back and he was a human resource person for the city of San Jose. So he had an outstanding career after Elstree High School. And the next one was Kenny Butler, a star track man, with his first one to go to state meet. Played football, played basketball. He became a PE teacher and he taught at San Leandro Junior High School for over 30 years. So there were three outstanding athletes in the 40s. Sal Tedesco, Bob Kennard, and Kenny Butler. All three of them are in our Hall of Fame. Next person is Scotty Sterling. All three graduated class of 1947. Also, Scotty Sterling also graduated in 47. I don't know if people heard of Scotty. He was always an Elstree High School sports supporter. Helped out Elstree Boys Club, Elstree Pop Warner. He was a sports writer for the Oakland Tribune. 5 years in front office of the Oakland Raiders. He was a general manager of Oakland Raiders when they won the AFL championship 68-69. Also the general manager of the Oakland Oaks basketball team, won the American League championship. Initial sports host talk 68 on KNBR. General manager of the Golden State Warriors 76-82. Vice president of operations of the NBA from 83 to 85. General manager of the New York Knicks, 85-87, scouting director for Sacramento Kings, 1987 till the time of his death. Graduated from the University of San Francisco, master's degree, and really a class act. Really did a lot for Elstree sports, especially fundraising department. Scotty Sterling. All right, now we'll go to the 50s. That's when El Cerrito started to win championships. And the first thing is the Elstree Relays. There we go. All right, first thing, 1950. That's when the Hill Road started, the Elstree Relays. And that was the start of something really huge back in the 50s and 60s. Elstree won the first relays on April 1st, 1950. And this is these are Hale's babies, I call them. Every year he had his big queen contest and stuff, and he loved doing this. I mean, he loved doing this. This was his highlight. And so these are all the queens over the years from 1950 to 1971. All right, so all those years they had queens for the relays, and here they are, right here. This, like I said, this was Hale's baby. He loved every minute of it. People that know Hale know I'm not joking. 1950 baseball team, the whole infield and catcher made all ACL. Didn't win the league, obviously didn't have any pitching, but they had some great players. Pumpsy Green played first, Willie Reed played second, Harvey Dugan played short, Calvin Winters played third, and Keith Salisbury was the catcher. 1950 football team, Elshore had the best record ever, 7-1-1 with 3-1-1 league. But they lost to Berkeley High School last game of the season, 14-0, for the championship game. It was played on the high school field here. So they won that game, they won the first championship ever, but they got beat by Berkeley 14-0. And that's when Berkeley became our dreaded rivals. No question about it. It was war to play Berkeley. Right, George? Mike? It was Weston, right? Oh, yeah, Weston. Berkeley High. I never seen that the kids were ready to play Berkeley, believe me. I picked up Berkeley this week. That's all I had to say. Didn't have to say anything else. We're playing Berkeley. That was it. 1951, Elshore High School won its first championship, a coach championship with baseball with Richmond High. The three main players were Pumpsy Green, Ernie Bullitt. We'll talk about those two guys later. And the other person was Harvey Dugan. You put Harvey's period. Harvey Dugan. Let me get this stuff. Harvey Dugan was a three-sport athlete. Played baseball 4 years, football 2 years, basketball 3 years, all of varsity. The only person I know male-wise that won 9 letters in the varsity sport at Elshore High School. The 1950 season when they almost beat Berkeley, scored 14 touchdowns and ran for 983 yards. He was really a great athlete, and he signed with the Pittsburgh Pirates out of high school. But again, Uncle Sam got a hold of him, and he off the war. He went and never did play baseball again after that. So Harvey Dugan, great athlete at Elshore High School. Also, 1952, 10-3-52, the board of President Marcus Manuel named Elshore High School baseball field the Mel Johnson Memorial Field. And the story I get was that Mel Johnson was a senior. They went over to Sutro Bass for Saturday or Sunday trip, and he got spinal meningitis, and he died within 2 weeks. And so Manuel Marcus named the field Mel Johnson Memorial Field. So 1955 baseball team. Okay, that was the first baseball team that won the baseball league. Won a championship with the school outright, first in the school's history. The key that they won a baseball title 3 years in a row, 55, 56, and 57. But the key guy was, there he is, Jerry Jeremita. Jerry made all league all 3 years. They won 3 years, won the championship. He made all league all 3 years. His senior year, he hit over 400. And he was a heart and soul of the Elshore High School baseball program for those 3 years. They went out to Contra Costa and played out there. And this is a true story. One day out of Stockton, playing Stockton doubleheader, and he hit 5 home runs and a triple. And the only reason why they have 6 home runs is they didn't have a fence. He had to run them all out. He got so tired last time he stopped at third. I was the guy, he was in. They kept backing up, hit him overhead, back up, hit it overhead again, back him up, hit overhead again. It was unbelievable. 5 home runs and triple, 1 doubleheader. I mean, he could really hit. 1956, Ellisville team, basketball team won the ACL, won the TOC, and won the Gridley tournament. They were #1 team in the state. The big star of that team was Cornell Green. The last game against Gridley in the Gridley tournament, I can't remember what the team it was, but he scored 42 points in the last game of the season at the Gridley tournament. Obviously, he was the most valuable player in the Gridley tournament. But one great, outstanding athlete at El Cerrito. Eddie Collins was the coach of that team. Again, 31-1, #1 team in the state. And back then, there were no North Coast playoffs. Then the only sport that had playoffs was track, and they went on to NCS or state tournament, state track, I should say. Base basketball had the TOC, and that started in 1947. They played all those games in Berkeley, University of California in Berkeley, and only 8 teams win. All the leagues that had there were 8 teams around the Bay Area at that time, and all the champions win. That's why they call it TOC. And Ellisville won TOC that year. The highlight that put Ellisville on the map was Bill Farr. We were playing for Climans, and we're down by 1 with about 3 seconds left to go on the clock. Bill Purcell passed to Johnny Perkins. Johnny Perkins passed to Bill Farr. Farr put the ball in the corner. Ball goes in the hoop. Ellisville wins. The gym went crazy. It was an unbelievable game. And then the last game played St. Nation beat them easily. But anyway, that was, and McClimas was loaded. They had 2-3 guys that, but I remember correctly, played the NBA. That's how good they were. It was a great game, but we won outright. Track team, 1956, heartbreaker. The El Cerrito medley team established a national record, but finished second to Palo Alto High School by 1/10 of a second. I don't know what their time was, but they, like I said, missed the national record by 1/10 of a second. Baseball, 1957, beat Richmond High 3-2 in 9 innings for the championship on the last game of the season. Both teams were tied for first place at that time. Again, Jeremy went 3 for 4 in that game, and one of the players, a young player named John Flake, that played in the big leagues, was the first baseman. He was a sophomore. I remember that game because I was here, and we played. The place was just absolutely packed. The outfield at El Cerrito was just the ring of people all the way around the outfield. It was just jammed, and we won the game 3-2 in 9 innings. 1958, Phil Hart broke Cornell's record up at Gridley, scored 45 points, won the games up there in Gridley. Phil Hart, a great basketball player, went to St. Mary's College and played there a couple of years and dropped out of school. Green family. We were blessed with the Green family at El Cerrito. We had Ponce Green, played in the big leagues. Cornell Green played in the National Football League. Creedell Green, he just barely got cut by the Green Bay Packers. Otherwise, he would play in the NFL. At that time, the Packers had 2 Hall of Fame running backs on the team. Jim Taylor was one, and Paul Running was the other. So Creedell is, process of elimination is unfortunate because he was a great football player. The other brother, Travis Green, good athlete. Of course, he wasn't as good as his brothers, but he was a good athlete. Played basketball and baseball. Good baseball player, good basketball player. But Pumpsy, Creedell, and Cornell really stood out. We'll speak more about Pumpsy and Cornell later on. Okay. In the 50s, kind of recap of the 50s, El Cerrito won 6 championships. National Baseball won 4 of them, and cross country won 1. Hale started that in 1955. First year they had cross country, they won the league. And basketball won the TOC. We were blessed in that period of time because I was part of it. We had some outstanding baseball players in the 50s at El Cerrito High School. 3 of them played in the big leagues. 10 of them ended up signing. A couple guys just missed. We had baseball players coming out of the woodwork at Cerrito those years. And obviously, you can tell we won 4 championships. Could have won 5 or 6, but bouncing the ball, whatever stops you winning. But we had some great athletes, especially baseball, and we had some good football players, but not like baseball players in the 50s. So, anyway, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to stop for a second before I go to the next group, the 60s. Anybody want to ask? I'll take up the 3 questions in the 50s, 40s and 50s. No questions? Okay. We'll get some water. Yo.
Could you talk about how much different it is now in terms of getting the kids getting coverage and support from media?
I'll get that down the road. I do have it on here. Remind you. We'll get back to that. Okay, 1960. Track. 1962 track team. They're in our Hall of Fame. They won the ACL North Coast section in Northern California. The star of the team was Charles Booth. And Charles was East Bay Track Athlete of the Year. There's nothing Charles couldn't do. Read some of the things he did in Alaska. Ran relays, long jump, triple jump, 220, 880. Long jump, 220-yard dash, 100-meter relay team, and 880 relay team. Qualified for North Coast section and the Northern Cal meet for the 100, 220 long jump, and 880 relay. East Bay Track Athlete of the Year. He's also inducted on our Cerrito High School Hall of Fame. Charles Booth, outstanding gentleman. Charles worked for PG&E for years, and then he still works for the Southwest Airline. Thank God he didn't work for United. So, anyway, 1962, new football coach at Cerrito, John Lewis, love the man to death. Best record in the history of school his first year, 8-1. Only loss was to Alameda, and Alameda won the league. 1966, TO's baseball team won a championship. That's the first time they were able to go on the playoffs. They had the TOC over San Rafael Ballpark, started by Al Lindros, the baseball coach at Redwood. He started the TOC. Again, 8 teams, all champions, going to the TOC. And that was the first year that started. Main cog of that team was Les Kane, who also played in the big leagues. 1967 track. Only won the NCS, but they had 2 outstanding athletes, Lonnie Lee and Dave Masters. Looked at her. Dave Masters. Okay. Outstanding sprinter. NC champ. 1967, first place 100-yard dash. Third place in state with a 9.6. First place 220-yard dash North Coast section 21.2. First place 100-yard dash North Coast section 9.8. Second in state 9.5 in 1967. First place in 220-yard dash North Coast 1967 20.9. Second in state meet 20.9. Lost to Belgrade both sprints at the state. Ran 100 yards 5 times in 9.5. Ran 9.20, 20.9, and the 220 3 times. He was on the NC2A relay team, champions at Cal 1970. He was a high school All-American 1967. His nickname was the White Tornado. Honest to God, I gotta tell you. When back in the days when the Elster relays were going full bore, the football field had the bleachers. So if you're in the stands watching the relays, you couldn't see what's going on the relay team behind the bleachers. That's what made the handoffs. And so there was a whole bunch of people that sat on this corner of the football field, and they bet on everything you could think of. Money is going back and forth. So they're running relays. And all of a sudden, you see it come out of that turn there with out of the bleachers, and you can hear, ooh-wee! I mean, it was hilarious. And I heard a couple kids yell on the stand, "Here comes a white tornado!" Talking about masters. I mean, it was hilarious. It really was. But he was a great runner. But back there in those days of relays, everybody had a great time. People in stands had a great time. The guys who worked the relays had a great time. It was a fun time to work the Elstree relays in the 50s and 60s. There were a couple of guys who ran track for Elstree. They know exactly what I'm talking about. Roddy, he does too. Okay? Roddy Lee played football. Okay, I think he kind of dabbled in that, didn't you, Roddy? Ran track 3 years, ACO champions, 1966, NC track was 1966. Outstanding high school hurdler, 120-yard high hurdles, 14.2, 4 years in track at UC Berkeley. Third place in Pac 8, 440 intramural hurdles, Asian Games, 2 medals, silver, 110 high hurdles, silver, 440 intermediate hurdles. Represented the Republic of China, 110 high hurdles, 400 yards, intermediate hurdles, and 440 relay team. Only person I know who graduated from Elstree High School ran in the Olympics. It's Ronnie Lee, and Ronnie's right here sitting in front of us. Okay, we also have 2 athletes during that time that are in our Elstree High School Hall of Fame, and both of them were mayors. One, Nat Bates, mayor of Richmond, basketball player here. He was a councilman, mayor in the city of Richmond for 32 straight years, I believe. Nat Bates, great person. Number 2, Bill Jones, graduated from Elstree in 1968, mayor of El Cerrito, played baseball, basketball, football. Baseball was the #1 sport, all league in baseball. Senior year was 19-2, and made the all-area team. Berkeley Gazette, second pick. He was the second player for Elstree High School that was ever drafted in the baseball draft. They didn't start the baseball draft until 1965. The first one was Les Kane, and Billy was number 2. But Billy, again, mayor of El Cerrito, and currently now he's a commissioner for one of the leagues in the Richmond area. Which one is it, Rocket or Stone? The whole thing? Yeah, he's been a commissioner now for at least 14 years for the Richmond area's high schools. So Bill's another great guy. Again, 2 mayors from Elstree High School that are in our Athletic Hall of Fame. The thing, we talk about playoffs and stuff, nowadays it's all about, you make the playoffs. Well, back then, it was, you win the league. That was the important thing. There was no playoffs over track. Track had the ability to go to North Coast section, Northern Cal, and the state. The rest of sports until 1947 that had the TOC. In 1966, and baseball had their TOC over San Rafael. Since we talked about Elstree Hall of Fame, I want to talk about that before I move on. 2008, I believe it was, Vincent Ray, was Vincent president? He was principal then, 2008, wasn't he, Mike? Yeah. And he asked me to do a Hall of Fame. I said, that's fine, I'll do it. I said, but I got to do it my way. And he said, fine, go ahead. So anyway, I said, well, first one we put on for the first years of the school, 1944 to 1969. I want to take care of the older people first. And every year after that, we added a decade. So the next one was 1999 1970, 1979. The third one from 1980 to 1989, and the last one was 1990 to 2000. So that's what we did. We took the older group first and moved up a decade every year. People on the ballot in the early decades and never taken off the ballot. They stayed on the ballot. So we always went back and picked a couple guys from the last group. You know, always went back. So we got some pretty good numbers in our Hall of Fame at El Cerrito. So anyway, that's how I got started. So I say, well, Hall of Fame, you know how they got in because of the years they, were in school. The other thing too, one of the qualifying things is you have to play two sports, number one. Number two, if you only play one sport, that means you have to be dominant in that sport. Example, Jeremy from the first group, who was all league 3 years in a row in baseball, was the best hitter, et cetera, et cetera. That's domination in this sport. So that's our criteria. Well, the 1962 track team, I feel I mentioned it was coached by Hale Roach. Anybody want to ask a question now from the 50s? Okay. All right. Uh, 1970s, 1979. 1970 football team. We stopped. I was in Ellsworth High School, started in September 1969, so I can feel good about this one. 1970, Ellsworth High School stopped Alameda's 35-game win streak, 24-21 at Ellsworth High School. We let that one go to our head, and the next day we turned on lost the pole. So, take that for what it's worth. Track team, 1971 state champion, 440 relay team. Relay team 441.1, coached by Hill Roach. Members of the team were Paul Gaines, Donald Smith, Delvin Watson, Sammy Burns. Okay, say a little bit about Sammy. Okay, Sam Burns played football, was all league 2 years. Ran track on a 440 relay team. He also tied the school record with Dave Masters in the 100-yard dash, 9.5, 220, 21.5 is his best time. He's on the State California relay team, 4.3 seconds, 4.1 second. 1971. Sammy, when he left El Cerrito, graduated Cal, worked for the Sheriff's Department for 30 plus years. He coached track at El Cerrito High School in the 80s, middle 80s, girls track. His teams won 4 ACO titles in 2 North Coast sections. He also was awarded the Jefferson Award winner in 2011, I believe. So, Sammy, besides what he did at El Cerrito, he's done a lot for people in the area, especially young males and females. Outstanding person. Okay, 1972 baseball team won 3 games in a row to win the league championship. The star of that team was no doubt Ronnie Selak. He's in our Hall of Fame. He was a high school All-American, first baseball player that I know was a high school All-American. Can you go back to Selak and say?
Yeah, I was looking. There it is. All right, here.
Shoot your picture, Selak. There he is. Ronnie Selak was an outstanding pitcher. He was all ACL 72-73, all in space 72-73, all over California 72-73, All American 1973. Like I say, he won 3 games in that playoffs as a pitcher. Lifetime record at El Cerrito was 23-8. ERA was 1.67, but the outstanding thing was he struck out 388 people in 226 innings. Pitched no-hitter against Kennedy, 22 strikeouts in 10 innings also against Kennedy. Love pitching against Kennedy. Played in North-South game in 1973. He was a second-round draft pick out of high school, played 8 years in minor league baseball. The reason why he never played the big leagues, that the day before he was supposed to be called the big leagues, he was pitching in Arkansas Double-A ball, and after the game was over, they were supposed to bring him up, and the guy in line brought back to the box and broke his finger right here. And from that point on, he kind of lost his curveball because he had a great curveball. And you know, he had good. The following year, 1979, he was 18-3 in AAA baseball, but for some reason they never called him up. But he was on his way to the big leagues until that happened. The thing with CELAC, I think it kind of put El Cerrito baseball on the map in the 70s was this has something to do with El Cerrito, but it has more to do with the city of El Cerrito. The Legion team that I coached winning the state tournament, winning the regionals down in Ontario, and going back to Memphis, Tennessee to play in the World Series, and we lost the championship game 2-1. We got beaten by a team from Missouri. Lost 2-1. But CELAC's the reason why we got there, because of his pitching ability. The championship game at Yountville, and back then Legion ball was the only ball in town. All summer ball was Legion baseball. That was it. And we beat North Torrance 1-0. And CELAC was a pitcher. But on the other hand, flip side of it, we did some good things. We threw 3 people out of the plate during the course of the game. One of the guys on the team was Oscar Blackwell. Oscar, stand up, buddy. So like I said, we had a good run that year, and right after we won the league with 3 straight wins in the playoffs, CELAC was the man that took us all the way back to Memphis, Tennessee. With great. We had other great players too, Mark CELAC and Dan Coops, but there was 11 kids from El Cerrito, 4 from Albany, 1 from St. Mary's, and 2 from Kennedy. But the majority of the kids were El Cerrito players that played El Cerrito High School baseball in '72. But CELAC was the reason why we got as far as we did. Track, 1972, North Coast Section champions. Dale Scott was the man. There's the track records there. His brother did that. Dale Scott was the heart and soul of that team. Second state meet run. El Cerrito High School record holder in the 440, 880, and a mile. 3 times East Bay Athlete of the Year for track. Fresno Relays, he was reason why El Cerrito won the Fresno Relays. Won North ACL, North Coast Section State Meet champion in 1988. He was on the National Junior Championship team. Richmond District Athlete of the Year 1972. East Bay Track Athlete of the Year 1972. National High School record in 880, 148.8. Record stood for 11 years. Representing the United States in the first U.S. Russian junior track meet, came in second by 1/10 of a second, 880 meters or 800 meters, and led it. And again, he was running for the U.S. at the time. Went to Washington State, track scholarship. Quote from Hale Roach: "He's the finest track man that El Cerrito High School has ever had." That's from Hale. Dale Scott, outstanding runner, also a good student. 1974 baseball. Bill Harden hit 4 home runs in a row. First time ever happened. In my coaching career, he hit 4 home runs, not all the same game. 2 in the last time up in a game, and 2 in the first the next 2 times up in the next game. Basketball team 1975 won the North Coast Section Championship. That was the first year of the North Coast Section playoffs. It was all Division I, and only champions win. El Cerrito won the North Coast Section that year, coached by Dick Jones, another Hall of Fame coach. Wrestling was started up, won 2 championships during that period of time in the 70s, coached by Bill Waller. 1975. First year of girls athletics started in 1975. Dick Jones coached girls basketball in 1975 and 1978. They won a championship that year. Those 2 years. Again, the first year in 1975 when we had girls sports. Volleyball in the second year in 1976 was the first female sport to win a championship. Remember, basketball 77, 78. Girls track 1977, won the first North Coast section championship for girls. Girls basketball again, 1977, 1978, won the championship. The two stars in that period were Karen Mason and Janice Newton. Here's Karen right here. Good. Karen. Karen was a basketball player, averaged 17 points a game as a senior, all ACL 76 and 77. She also played tennis. She had a scholarship at San Jose State, played basketball there 4 years. She's in the San Jose State Hall of Fame. Outstanding basketball player at El Cerrito. Janice Newsom, also in El Cerrito High School Hall of Fame. Basketball 4 years at El Cerrito. All league 2 years, all league spade 1. 2 times prep of the week for basketball, played volleyball 2 years, ACL, he made all ACL volleyball 1978. She went to Hayward State, played 4 years of basketball at Hayward State. She also was in Hayward State Hall of Fame. So both girls left El Cerrito, and they carried on the same tradition as the local colleges in San Jose State and Cal State Hayward, both in their Hall of Fame. Next. Okay. Pull that picture right there. All right, 1978 baseball team was the West County team of the decade. I mean, for the 70s, that baseball team was voted the best team of all the local schools, baseball team, all the local schools. Richmond High was voted the best football team during that time. League record was 17-1. Will never ever be broken again because they don't play 18 league games anymore. The backbone of that team was Winston Ficklin. He played football 1 year, came to senses and decided to stay with baseball.
Thanks to you and Mom.
Was all RBL 3 years. Hit 387 in 78, 340, 335 in 1979. All these plays 78, 79. Made the Dream Team in 78, 79. Played the All Northern California. Made All Northern California. No more team history, like I said, team of the decades of the 70s. Played a North-South All-Star game and the California-Oklahoma series. Drafted by the Detroit Tigers in the 10th round, but he went to college first and signed after that. Played 9 years of minor league baseball. One thing I'm going to say, Winston, he's a local hero. Right down the street here, Richmond and Mosier, some truck went through a lady's house, caught on fire. And Winston was working for UPS at the time, stopped, got out of his van, ran in the house, and saved the lady's life. And also, the young man is here. Winston, stand up.
Yeah, it still looks like he's in prison.
Okay, got me easily. Track again. The 440 relay team came to tuition again. Won the 1978 440 relay team. Didn't have the good time was as good as the first group, but they were 4-1.5. Team was made up of Don Barrett, Tony Brown, Brian Pete, Jerry Gibson. 1978, first high school championship for the football team in 1978 was co-champions with Kennedy and Pelot. Our record was 9-1, best record in the history of school at that time. Todd Spencer, who played in the NFL, was our star, now you say. Back then, like I said before, North Coast was just starting out, and even though we had a record of 9-1, we didn't make the North Coast section playoffs because the league coaches voted Pinole to go to the playoffs and not else, which is okay. I mean, you get into the three-way tie, they pick who they pick. But we go, coached by Dennis Gentini, and I was his co-coach at that time. We go watch the first playoff game. Pinole's playing Antioch. And we're sitting in the stands watching the game, and we looked over at Dennis and says, "Dennis, something wrong with this. We beat both those teams this year. We're not in the playoffs." So, but anyway, that's just the way it goes. But again, nowadays, in 91, you're definitely going to playoffs. You can be 1-9, you're going to playoffs nowadays. That's the way it is. Yes, Winston.
Coach, you said, what was it, 1978, 17-1? That one loss wouldn't happen to be Berkeley, would it?
I have to go back and check my records. Well, if it was, we'd still be in 2 out of 3.
I was just checking. I was like, who the hell beat us?
That's a good question. I don't remember. I don't remember those losses, Winston.
Okay.
Get out of here.
You're too few, huh?
Yeah. So anyway, that was the 70s. One thing happened in the 70s. Hale Roach retired in 1973 after 32 years at Ellisville High School. Like I say, girls sports came into play, which was huge. We've had, Mike Burns, Gary Hayes, Harvey Salem, Jerry Bell played in the NFL. 7 guys signed pro contracts: Selak, Richard Woods, Ron Harper, Kenny Harris, Ted Perkins, Winston Ficklin, Tim Castle. Coaches at that time were Larry Creco baseball, John Lilly's football, and AD and track took over for Hale's track coach. Janice Gentini took over John's football coach. Hale Roach, like I said, track and AD. Bill Lawler was wrestling. And Dick Jones coached boys and girls basketball at that time. Double duty. Okay. The 80s. I need some water. Um, 1989 was kind of a glory years for El Cerrito, especially in the first 5 years. John Louis left to go over Richmond High's boys team. Larry Creco took over as AD, dropped football, and just coached baseball and AD only. In the early 80s, 1980, 1985, we dominated the league in boys sports. 5 football championships, 4 baseball, 1 state championship, 8 titles for the girls, and 2 NCS titles. So that's pretty good domination for one high school. In the early 80s here, those first 5 years, we just completely dominated the league. 1981, first outright football championship in the history of the school, coached by Dennis Gentini and assisted by Frank Milo. Pro guy on that team was Rod Jones. Baseball 1983.
Steve.
Go baseball.
Steve assistant.
There we go. All right, baseball team, which All right, baseball team 83, which I'm very proud of to this day. We're number 1 team in the state. We're 27-1, won the North Coast section. We were picked a couple years ago. Because we were number 1 team in East Bay, number 1 team in Northern California, number 1 team in Western Regional District of the United States, runner-up national championship, the ABCA. 4 or 5 years ago, we were picked the best team, 5th best team in the history of California high school baseball by Joe Davis of Max Sports. He did this history check and picked us as number 5 team in the history of the state of California. Also, last year, we were named the best high school baseball team in the history of the Bay Area by Mark Tennis. Cal Prep magazine, he had an article in the paper last year, or I think it was last season, that ranked us as 1 as the best team in the history of the Bay Area. Redwood High School number 2, and College Park number 3. Who that year they just finished winning the North Coast, so very proud of that team. 7 kids off that team signed pro contracts. Best thing I like about it, they didn't sign right out of high school. They all went to school first, and they signed out of college. 5 of them graduated from college, 2 signed after 2 years at J.C. And like I said, the most proudest thing I can say about those guys is that 5 of them graduated from college first before they took off and tried their programs. So it was a special group of players that could really play the game. That picture there is a picture taken and they were inducted to the El Cerrito High School Hall of Fame in 1993. All right, go to Mitchell and Nicholson. Oh, that guy up there was picked the California State Coach of the Year, Northern California Coach of the Year, And East Bay Coach of the Year.
Who was that guy?
I don't know, some guy named William Cerrito. Okay, the two studs of the team, one's Brian Nichols. Brian played basketball. He played basketball 3 years, played baseball 4. 4 years, all ACL, 4 years won a championship. He was MVP of the league 2 years, co the other 2. All East Bay 4 years, all Northern California 2. State Freshman Player of the Year, 1981. All-State Underclassmen Team, 1981 and 83. Tribune Player of the Year, 1984. Of course, you know about our baseball team. Played a North-South game and California-Oklahoma Series, All-Star Series. Was on a Northern California All-Star team that went to Japan that I coached in 1984. Baseball scholarship at USC, MVP at USC in 1987. All-Pac and All-American 1987, signed with Cincinnati Reds in 1988. Next, Mitchell, James. James Pops Mitchell. Played football 3 years, All-League 3 years, won championship 3 years, All-East Bay 2 years, All Northern California 2 years. Baseball, same thing as Brian. 4 years of varsity baseball, 4 all leagues, 4 championships. MVP 2 years, co-MVP 2 years, all East Bay, 1983 and 84, East Bay Player of the Year 1983, all Northern California Player in 83 and 84, Northern California Player of the Year 1983, All State 83 and 84, Junior State Player of the Year 1984, Tribune Player of the Year 1983. Played the North-South game, was the MVP of the North-South game, played the California-Oklahoma Series, was the MVP in that series, and that series is unbelievable. He hit, in one game in that series, he hit 3 home runs and 10 RBIs in the first game of the series. Baseball, scholarship USC, signed with St. Louis Cardinals. I have to say this about Mitchell, is that, you can argue he's the best athlete in the school history, but one thing's for sure, he had the greatest high school career in the history of El Cerrito High School. Every time he played, he was all league, all Northern California, all state, all this, all that, and MVP in 2 all-star games. There's no great, no other kid can say he had a career that Pops had. Unfortunately, about Pops, he passed away at a really young age. But Pops came back, he came back and coached at El Cerrito High School, supervisor at El Cerrito High School. Brian Nichols came back, he coached at El Cerrito, coached 14 years of baseball at El Cerrito High School until an unfortunate thing happened, and that still bothers me to this day, but we'll talk about that later. But again, they both came back to El Cerrito and did their thing, and we're greatly appreciative of that. All right, 1983 football, inducted in our Hall of Fame. Lost the title game to Marimani in overtime, coached by Frank Mile. Ceremony picture. There it is. That was 2012, they were inducted. Cross country girls won a North Coast section. In 83, girls track won 83, 85, 86, and 87, coached by Sammy Burns, who won 2 North Coast section titles during that time. Girls basketball. 1987, inducted in our Hall of Fame, coached by Bill Harden. 22 and 9 overall, 14 and 0 league. 2 girls during that period of time were outstanding. I have to talk about them. Mary Gatfield is one, and Karen Strickland's the other. Mary. Okay, she was first place in league meet, cross country now, 4 straight years, won league meet. 77 to 1980. Undefeated league competition for 4 years. Unbelievable. North Coast section champion 1979 to all Northern California 79 and 80. Team MVP 1980. Track ran 880 mile and 2 mile, 6 in the state meet, and the 2 mile, I think. Whole school record in mile and 2 mile. She's married, had 2 daughters, she lives in France. She's an epidemiologist with World Health Organization. Okay, she's a doctor now. Karen Strickland, 1987. She played basketball 4 years, All-RBA L2, 2 championship teams, West County Prep of the Week, MVP Skyline Holiday Classic, 2 years basketball co-captain, ran track, team championship, 84, 85, 86, 87. The San Coach said run a girls champion. She was the heart and soul of that. First place league meet, long jump, triple jump, 400 meter relay team. 1987, she's the Elstree High School Female Athlete of the Year. Now she's breast oncologist, surgeon, and general surgeon in Hawaii. I think she moved back to Albany, I believe. But again, both of them became outstanding doctors after they left Cerrito. Besides being great athletes, they also did other great things. In 1988, girls team won North Coast Section Championship, and they'll be up for the Hall of Fame the next time we have it. Okay. Since I'm getting run out of time a little bit, I think I'll jump to the pro guys. I want to make sure we get those because that was the whole chant of this thing. So,
Pro guys.
yeah, let's go to pro athletes. We'll come back to it if we have to. This was, the intent was to talk about the people who played in the big time, the show. All right, first one. There we go.
Coaches, you want to do this?
No, we'll come back to coaches. We always put the athletes first.
Pro guys.
There we go. Major League Baseball, first one. Pumpsy Green, 1952. Pumpy was a great athlete in high school, played baseball, obviously, and played basketball also. Started 3 years in both sports and made All-League Baseball, 3 of them. Played in Major League Baseball 1959, 1963, and here's where he's been famous for. His first African American to play for the Boston Red Sox, 1959, 1962. Played for New York Mets, 1963. Berkeley became, when Pumpsy retired, he moved out, he stayed in Elstree, he lives in Elstree still. Student supervisor at Berkeley High School, and coached baseball there from 1980 to 1984 at Berkeley High. Again, Pumpsy Green, first African American, played for Boston Red Sox. Next, Ernie Broglio. Ernie Broglio, Elstree High School. All ACL, 52 and 53. Played for St. Louis Cardinals, 1959 and 1964. Cubs, 1964, 1966. Led the National League in wins in 1960 with 21. He also led the National League in ERA in 1961. 1960 had 21 wins and tied with Sandy Koufax. And since 1961, he won the ERA title in the National League. He is the first and only Elstree graduate to be make the cover of Sports Illustrated. Okay, so we have 2 firsts. Pumpsy and Ernie. First Afro-American, first on Sports Illustrated. And the only one. The thing that people say that Ernie's famous for, the trade with Lou Brock for Ernie Broglio. Well, Lou Brock became the Hall of Famer for the St. Louis Cardinals, and Ernie, he got hurt, and so he never panned out with the Cubs. So they always say, the Broglio trade for Brock, blah, blah, blah. They always call a lot of heat for that. There's an article here somewhere about Ernie. It was in last year's newspaper that you can read about the trade that they made for Brock for Broglio. But Ernie was a great pitcher when they made the trade. He just got hurt. And the other thing, too, people don't realize, and I talked to Ernie a lot about this, back then they abused the pitchers. They abused them. He won 21 games in 1960, but he said he won 3 games in relief. That never happens nowadays. He pitched on Tuesday, and Friday he'd be back in the game, closing the game out. Well, that's why he hurt his arm. They abused him. They did the same thing to Sandy Koufax. That's why he had early retirement at 33 years old. He had to leave the game. They abuse those guys, you know. And like I already said, I, you know, cut my career short. But you know, that's the way it was back then. But anyway, we have first two who played in the big leagues, both famous for one thing or another. All right, next, John Thomas. No, John Flavin. Excuse me. John Flavin, 1959, Ellisville High School. He was baseball, basketball player, football also. Made all leagues a quarterback. ACL made all ACL 2 years. He pitched one game against Ariel's High School. Won 1-0, struck out 18 out of 21. Played in Major Leagues with the Chicago Cubs, 1964. John, because he was a teammate of mine, was his world's worst enemy. He had a brutal temper, and it cost him. As he got older, it cost him. But you know, he realized that now, you know, after the fact, that he, you know, his temper cost him, you know, a chance to play more than 1 year in the big leagues. But he had great talent. I mean, I played with John, and Ernie used to come back and work out with us before he'd go for spring training. And he used to pull John aside and talk to him. John, you got to change your attitude. You know, you got a great talent. And he had more talent than Ernie did, but Ernie had a better attitude. But he had an outstanding fastball. His curveball was unhittable. I mid drop here or there, and I had to catch him. You know, that was tough. But he was great, and he could have been really good if he just learned how. The problem with John was real simple. He just turned 17 in May, and he graduated in June. So he should have been in 1960 and made a difference in his maturity. But he was great. He really was. Like 18 strikeouts out of 21 outs. Pretty good. Next, Les Kane. Les played at El Cerrito, 1966. He graduated, signed with the Detroit Tigers. He pitched 3 no-hitters as a professional career, not all in the big leagues, but he pitched 3 no-hitters. Was all-league baseball player for 2 years, player of the year in 1966. Played basketball, good basketball player, played 3 years of varsity basketball. So he played varsity basketball 3 years, baseball 3 years. Another left-hand pitcher was really good and had a great attitude. Kane was a peach. Next, Chris Roberson. Now, Chris never played high school baseball. He played a little football, if I remember correctly. He didn't play baseball. Went to Contra Costa, played baseball out there 1 year. Went to Federal River, played baseball there. Got drafted, signed with the Phillies, and got called up. And I can't remember, 2006, I think, I got called up to the Phillies. Played a year or 2 with the Phillies, and then he went back to the minors. But he never played high school baseball. And like I said, he's a late developer and made it to the big leagues. Next, Mario Hollins, our latest big league pitcher, was called up in 2015, graduated from Elstree in 2006. Pitched 1 year for the Phillies. Next year went out in spring training. He hurt his elbow, had Tommy John surgery, and as far as I know, he's still recovering from Tommy John. So anyway, another super kid left-handed pitcher, Mario Hollins. Okay, NFL. John Thomas. Basketball, football player in Elstree. He was all-league football player, all-league basketball player. Went to the University of Pacific on a basketball scholarship. He's in the California Black Sports Hall of Fame. John Thomas is about 6'3.5", 6'4". He went to the College of Pacific as a basketball player. Came out, you know, that's an in-between size for NBA basketball. So the 49ers drafted him, ended up being an offensive guard for the 49ers for about 8-9 years. And his 2 sons played at Elstree High School in the 70s, Marlon and Terry. And also was Angela, also went to Elstree, John Thomas. Next, Cornell Green, probably arguably the greatest athlete that Elstree High School ever had. Cornell was an outstanding basketball player in high school. Played 1 year of football only. Was all Northern California, 2 years of basketball, state basketball in 1957, high school All-American in 1957. Again, it was all TOC, all Greeley tournament. Like I say, he scored 42 points in one of the games, and really he ended up with 78 for the 3-game tournament. He went to Conocostum for a year, was all-state basketball player at CC, then transferred to Utah State. Was 13 All-American at Utah State. Again, he was like John Thomas. He was 6'4", in between size for the NBA. So Dallas Cowboys drafted him, and he turned out to be a great defensive back. He was All-NFL 1966, 1967, All-Pro 1971. Played 14 years with the Cowboys. Played in 2 Super Bowls. George had a picture up there. NFL this year with the 50th Super Bowl game being played in the Bay Area. All the kids that played high school football in the area, they sent them a football to the high school, a low football to the high school with their name on it. George, we ever get a hold loud on his? Okay, good. All right. So Cornell Green, one of the Green brothers, outstanding football player, outstanding athlete. Who's that now? Okay. Bill Nelson, basketball, football player in Elstree, also track. He's in our Hall of Fame actually. Went to Oregon State, drafted by the Rams, played 1971, 1975 for the Rams. Another fine athlete at Elstree, played 3 sports. Okay, Michael Burns. Okay, Michael was not in our Hall of Fame because he only played 1 sport. He played football at Elstree 70-71. He was all ACL, offensive, defensive back, 1971. 2 years to CC, he was all league in 1973. 2 years at USC, defensive back, drafted by the 49ers in 1977. Played 5 years in the NFL, also played for the Detroit Lions. Philadelphia High School MVP 1971. 1971 is our most valuable football player. Younger brother of Sam Burns. Gary Hayes. Small guy, but he could play. Great athlete. Football player. Wrestler. Won the league championship twice in wrestling. Played baseball for me in 1975. Voted the best team player. Played 4 years of football at Fresno State from 75 to 79. He was 4 times all PCAA at Fresno. Played football for Green Bay Packers, 84 to 86. Special teams captain. Played 1980, 1983 for Eskimos. Edmonton Eskimos. Jerry Bell. Again, another player, not in our Hall of Fame, because Jerry played football 2 years and basketball 2 years, went to the University of Arizona and played tight end for the Tampa Bay from 82 to 86. I'm going to tell you here's how Bell got a scholarship. The football coach from Arizona was, I was talking to JT and I, he was recruiting one of the players, and I can't remember which one it was. But anyway, Bell walked by the locker room. He said, "Who's that kid there?" I said, "Jerry Bell." He said, "How tall is he?" He's about 6'5", 6'6". He said, "Tell that kid to come in here." He comes in there, looks him over, talks to him, gives him a scholarship to Arizona State. They were recruiting somebody else, and they saw him walk by, they hauled him in. And, Jerry wasn't a guy that they came to Elstree looking for, or wanted to recruit. They saw him walk into the locker room, they saw his size, and he said, and he was a tall, slender guy, and he filled out and became a hell of a football player. But again, you never know when somebody's going to give you a scholarship. Believe me, there's two cases in point there. He ended up playing the NFL.
That always surprised me, Coach.
What's that?
That always surprised me.
That's right.
Arizona State in the NFL.
That's how he got there.
Great guy.
Yeah. Next, Harvey Salem. Another young player at Elstree High School, should have been a senior. He should have graduated in 1979, but he was really young for his class when he went to Cali, redshirt a year. Anyway, he was all RBL a couple of years, all East Bay, all Northern California, all state 1977. Track, High Point man, track team, won the NCS championship in shot put and discus, league championship dual meets, meet a champion, played in the East-West Shrine game, University of California football 4 years, all Pac-10 2 years, first team All-American Sporting Goods and academic All-American 1962, played in NFL Houston from 1983 to 1986, Detroit 86 to 1990, Denver 91, Packers 92. He's in the University of California Hall of Fame. Played all kinds of tackle. Next.
Larry,
Yo.
he's the only El Cerrito player that played pro sports that endowed his school with
Right.
a scholarship. We
Yeah.
paid about $2,000 for about 10 or 12 years, the outstanding boy and girl athlete at our school.
His agent was Lee Steinberg. And Steinberg made sure all his athletes did that, get back to the high school they came from. And so he was the only one that did that, was Harvey Sale. Next is Todd Spencer, another terrific athlete who was on that football team and won our co-championship at El Cerrito 91. It was the main reason. He made all-league football 2 years. He had 1,555 yards, 16 touchdowns his junior year. Northern California running back of the year, played All-American 1978. He made the Richmond Independent football team of the decade at tailback. Baseball 1978, 79, 80. He was a really good baseball player. Made all-league twice, all Northern California first baseman. He was on that team of the decades. Got a 4-year scholarship at USC. Played 2 years with Pittsburgh Steelers. Working with, right now he's working with at-risk kids in the Richmond area. Doing a great job with them. Next, Ron Jones. Football, El Cerrito 80-81, wrestling 81-82. Was all-league tight end and defensive end. He was on the league championship team that won the first outright title in the history of the school. We won the league heavyweight championship division. We won the league championship in heavyweight division 1982. Football scholarship, University of Washington. All Pac-10, tied in 1987. Played East-West Shrine game in 87. Played for the Kansas City Chiefs, New York Giants, and Seattle Seahawks. Right now, he's an administrator at the University of Washington in their athletic department.
But he's in their athletic hall of fame too.
Is he? He's in the University of Washington Hall of Fame, Athletic Hall of Fame. Okay, Jim Miller. All right, Jameer Miller, defensive end, all league in 88, all league linebacker 89-90, East Bay linebacker 89-90, all area team, all country cross college team, all state team 1990, state player of the year 1990, national finals top 5 players in the United States 1990, Gatorade California Player of the Year. Played football at UCLA 3 years. All-American as a linebacker of the year 1993. First round draft choice of the Arizona Cardinals. Played from there from 1994 to 2003. Cleveland Browns 2004, 2005. Ran track. Got to say a scholarship to UCLA. He was the first round draft choice. That's the first one in El Cerrito's history. Somebody get the first round draft choice in pro football. Next, Kwame Lau, again, he's not in the Hall of Fame. Simple reason, he only was at El Cerrito 1 year, he only played one sport. He made all league at El Cerrito in 93, returned punts and kickoffs, played the Alameda Contra Costa All-Star Game, football scholarship at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, 94 to 97, set all-time passing receiving records, 96 to 97, All-American. At Cal Poly, 7 years NFL with Buffalo Bills, played in 3 Super Bowls with the Bills. So Green and him are the only 2 players who played in the Super Bowl from El Cerrito. Next, Lamont Thompson, football, 94, 95, 96, All ACL, 95, 96, second team All East Bay, 4 punt returns and 4 passing receptions for touchdowns, 18 pass receptions, 5 TDs, All East Bay, All County. Super Prep All West defensive team 96, 23 pass receptions, 7 TDs, 2 punt return TDs, 2 passing reception TDs. Played on a championship team in 96. Football scholarship at Washington State 4 years. All-time Pac-10 interception leader at 24. All Sun Bowl team in 2001. Sun Bowl MVP 2002. Second round draft choice by Cincinnati Bengals 2002. He got the John Madden Award for the Hit of the Year in 2004. Played 8 years in the NFL for the Bengals, Titans, and Jacksonville Jaguars. He also came back to Ellisville and coached football here at Ellisville for 4 years, right, George? 4? Pretty close. 4 years. Okay. Next, Joel Roberts. Football, 96, 97, 98, all ACL, defensive back, 97, all ACL running back and defensive back at 96, both ways, all East Bay, 1998. Led East Bay in rushing and TDs, 1,600 yards and 26 TDs. League champs 2 years, 96 and 97. Runner-up Division 3, 1998. Football scholarship, football scholarship, Oregon State University. All Pac-10 his senior year. Signed with Cincinnati Bengals. Played 5 years in the NFL. Now he's a personal trainer in the Elsa Branding area. NBA. Yeah, Andrew Gooden. 1999. All ACL 2 years. All East Bay. All Metro Examiner 99. Examiner Player of the Year 1999. 13. Parade All-American 1999. ACL Champions 99. North Coast Section Division 3 Champs 99. Northern California Champs 1999. His high school teams was all tournament at Eureka High and Alhambra tournaments. Averaged 18 points, 13 rebounds, and 35 games in 1999. Played on our team was 31-4, most wins in school history in basketball. Basketball scholar University of Kansas, 3 years All-American. College Player of the Year in 2002. Fourth overall pick in 2002 NBA draft. Had 13 years as an NBA player. He's played with various groups of teams, so I can't tell you all the teams he played for. Yes?
He comes back pretty odd when they talk to our basketball teams in the spot, and he tells the story. He tells the story of his freshman year.
Want me to tell it?
You want to finish it for me?
Yeah, I'll finish it. Freshman year, we have a rule at El Cerrito, and it's a very important rule we have there, that you have to pass PE to be eligible to play for a sport team. They go hand in hand. If you do the job in PE class, we know you do the job on the athletic field. Well, his freshman year, he's kind of a wise guy, and he was in my class, and you know me, I never took any credit off anybody, especially some kid. So, anyway, he earned an F in the first quarter, earned an F. And so it made him ineligible for basketball until he made up that F in the second quarter. So his dad came in, I told his dad what he did, and I had everything, I have everything all documented. I always have everything documented, I have no argument. He said, fine. So, second quarter, straight A. He never lost a point the whole quarter. So he's always going to play basketball. His dad comes in and he says, son, since you were ineligible the first quarter, you're ineligible the second quarter. You didn't play this year. And from that point on, he was a great student at Ellisville High School, right, George? Yeah, great student, because he knew he got the word as a freshman, this is what you do, and he learned, and now he became a great student at Ellisville, 3.4, 3.5, but he learned from the first year. If you don't crack down hard right off the bat, you have a problem with them. Right, Winston?
Yes, Dad. Yeah, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. All right, who we got? Olympics. We already talked about Riley Lee and his great career at Ellisville, also high cal and Olympic track and stuff. Dale Scott, we also talked about Scott. Soccer, Benton. Okay, Daniel Benton, El Cerrito, graduated in 99, played 4 years of soccer, but also a baseball player, made all league in both sports. Went to Marin JC, then he transferred to San Jose State, where he played soccer there for 3 years. He played 1 year for the San Jose Earthquakes in 2008 for the San Jose Earthquake as a goalie. Bowling, Mike McGrath, class of 1964. At age 19, won the Portland Open, 10 PBA titles, 3 majors, 3 ABCA tournament championships. I believe he's in the Bowling Hall of Fame, but I'm not sure. I think he is, but I'm not sure. Then we had a few, like I say, almost, that played, maybe 5-6 years in AAA, didn't quite make it. We talked about CLAC 1, Winston Ficklin, played how many years in third grade? 4 or 5? How many years AAA? 4? 5? 4. 4 years AAA. Larry Plants signed with the Raiders, didn't make it. Bob Lewis signed with the 49ers, he didn't make it. Michael Robinson signed with the Rams, he didn't make it. And we talked about Crudell Green. We also have Ronnie Robinson, played in the Canadian Football League. I just found that out about 2 days ago. But anyway, Ronnie Robinson played in the Canadian Football League. I guess that's one step below the NFL. But anyway, and also Raymond King played professional baseball, not the NBA. Excuse me, professional basketball, not the NBA. He played in 4 countries. Played pro basketball in Switzerland, Iraq, Poland, and Latvia. And he's now a personal trainer and fitness center here in Richmond. So anyway, those guys can almost make it. So we had a good group of guys who played big time sports, and quite a few. To me, if you sign a professional contract, you're a professional. Of course, there's the ladder you have to climb. And of course, the top is the NBA, the NFL, and the Major League Baseball. So anyway, all right. I know it's getting late. I'm running out of gas. I'll stop there.
Keep going.
We want to go to the coaches. Yeah.
Larry, do you have any?
Ask me some questions.
Larry,
Yes.
are there any Elster High School athletes here?
Here, ex-athlete.
Where are they?
Yeah. Well, Winston Ficklin, Steve Ware, Scott, Ray,
Yeah.
Lee, Oscar, Stafford, Red Hat. Yeah, they're all ex-Gauchos.
You?
Yeah, me, I'm ex-Gaucho. I quickly go to the 90s if you want. I missed them. I can run back to them. Want me to go to the 90s? Hit the 90s? No?
That's us.
Okay. But that's, professional guys, and like I say, I talked for an hour and 45 minutes. That's pretty good. My wife's sitting there, shut up. Well, I'm tired now. Yes?
Larry, what year did in track and field, did it go from yards to meters on these?
You can ask that question.
No idea.
I think it was late 70s or early 80s.
Early 80s.
Early 80s, yeah. Well, let me tell you something about the playoffs. Okay. The playoffs were all one division through the 80s until 90, 91, or 92. Because I know Nelson High School won the NCS baseball in 1990. It was still one division, Division 1. I think a couple of years later they went to Division 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Then in the 2000s they went to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So it's really watered down now compared to the old days. Just like I said, this kid did this, let me go all over to California, all these pay. From 44 to 1969, you made all league, and that was it. In the 70s, when I came to Elstree and started coaching, then they started picking all these Bay teams, all Northern California teams, and even all American teams. But that didn't start in the 70s. So some of these athletes previously, they never got that recognition because they didn't have it. As years progressed, 75, girls basketball, girls sports came to play. It became big time. And then we get to the 1990s, and then they watered it down more by having 5, 6 divisions. You got teams now that lose the record going to playoffs. I don't get it. I really don't. Should be a champion. I'm old school. Should be a champion goes, and that's it. The rest of you go home. Yes, Mike.
I think it's important to note that when Plumstead Green went on to the Boston Red Sox, that the Boston Red Sox were the last team.
Yes, they're the last team integrated.
So for him to go on that team in that environment, he must have been a pretty special guy.
Yeah, I'm going to try to tell you the story. Pumpsy told her the first Hall of Fame 2009. I probably won't get it completely right, but when he got called up in the middle of the year, they said he's going to start at second base, I believe. And when he got to the ballpark, center field and Fenway, they put a rope across center field, and it was filled with people, all African Americans, sitting right in there because they all wanted to go to the game to see Pumpsy. First African American in Boston. So he said he walked in, he saw all those people out there in dead center where usually is fence, but they had a rope going across and those people out there. He said he walked up the plate the first time, he said his knees were knocking. He said, oh,
Don't just shout.
anyway, he said his knees were knocking. Battery's dead. Right. His knees were knocking. And the first time up, he said he took 2 pitches and he was still shaking, and finally he threw a fastball and he hit it off the left center field wall, I think, for a triple. He said he never felt so relieved in his whole life. When he slid into third base, he said he just went, everything just kind of went right out of him because he got over that initial play, that initial at bat,
First hit.
Yeah, first hit. He said, I wish I'd have kept it up. He said,
I can play at 2 levels.
he was just relieved that all this pressure was off. But Bubby's a great guy. He's a really good coach.
I remember in '72 during the playoffs. We were the first team that won All-ACL championship, but we faced 3 All-ACL pitchers.
Yes, we did.
San Angelo Andretti, and then we faced for the championship game was Nellicott, who was all leader here. But I just remember that game, in the first inning, we scored a run, and Silas was so happy, so we got, but Silas, all you need is 1 run. And we win the ball game here.
I go back to that season, and that kind of, I said this when they retired my number at Elstree. I said this thing, that kind of, when Silas won those 3 games and we went back to Memphis, Tennessee to win the championship, in the World Series, it kind of made me as a coach in our program become nationwide, got national attention on that. And at the league meeting, I always remember this league meeting, we have a league meeting before the playoffs started. Remember, Pinot coach and San Leandro coach were going back and forth, who's going to win the championship, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't say a word at the meeting, didn't say a word. So when it's all over with, I said, you guys talked too soon, didn't you? Okay, let's give them a big hand. We're going to ask the coach to hang around for a few minutes afterwards, so if you have more questions that you want to ask him personally, but some of the people in the audience are getting a little tired. One of the talking more tired. Oh, one thing. Well, my ex-players here, Mike Aronian, with my basketball elite team, they all lead baseball in 1976 and became principal at Cerrito High School. Yeah.